Hello, bears. I've got a really lovely story for you today. It's one of my favourites, and it's one that my children liked when they were little. And it's called Dogger, and it's by Shirley Hughes, and it's published by Red Fox Picture Books. It's this little boy called Dave, and this is his dog, Dogger. So, all about his favourite toy. So, are you sitting comfortably? Snuggle down and enjoy today's story. Once there was a soft brown toy called Dogger. One of his ears pointed upwards and the other flopped over. His fur was worn in places because he was quite old. He belonged to Dave. Here's Dave. Dave was very fond of Dogger. He took him everywhere. Sometimes he gave him rides in a trolley. Sometimes he pulled him along on a lead made of string, just like a real dog. When it was cold, he wrapped him up in a bit of blanket. Now and again, Dave's mum said Dogger was getting much too dirty. She showed Dave how to wash him in a bowl of soapy water. Then they hung him up by his tail on the washing line to dry. Dave's baby brother Joe liked hard toys. He liked putting them in his mouth and biting on them because he was getting teeth. Dave's big sister Bella took 7 teddies to bed with her every night. She had to sleep right up against the wall to stop herself from falling out. But Dave liked only Dogger. One afternoon, Dave and Mum set out to collect Bella from school. Mum took Joe in the pushchair and Dave took Dogger. Next to the school gate where the mums waited was a playing field. Some men with ladders were putting up coloured flags. Mum said there was going to be a summer fair to get money to buy things for the school. Dave pushed Dogger up against the railings to show him what was going on. There he is, can you see? There's Dave. And he's look, there's little Dogger. He's pushing him up to show there's the men on the ladders putting up all the flags. Just then the children started coming out of school. An ice cream van came round the corner playing a tune. Bella ran up with her satchel flying. "Mum, can we have an ice cream?" Mum gave her the money for 2 cones. Joe didn't have a whole ice cream to himself because he was too dribbly. On the way home, Dave walked beside the pushchair giving Joe licks off his ice cream. Joe kicked his feet about and shouted for more in-between licks. At tea time, Dave was rather quiet. In the bath, he was even quieter. At bedtime, he said, "I want Dogger." But Dogger was nowhere to be found. Oh dear. Let's get this page open. Sometimes the pages in books just don't want to open, do they? There we go. But Dogger was nowhere to be found. Mum looked under the bed. She looked behind the cupboard. She searched in the kitchen and underneath the stairs. Dave watched anxiously through the banisters. Joe watched through the bars of his cot. Bella joined in to look for Dogger. She turned out her own toy box in case he was in there, but he wasn't. When Dad came home, he looked for Dogger too. He searched in the shed and down the garden path with a torch, but Dogger was quite lost. Dave was very sad when he went to bed. Bella kindly lent him one of her teddies to go to sleep with, but it wasn't the same thing as Dogger. Dave kept waking up in the night and missing him. Oh dear. The next day was Saturday, and they all went to the school summer fair. The playing field was full of stalls and sideshows. There's lots of things. So there are people paying to come in. There's Dave and his family. There's a tombola and a lucky dip and a coconut shy where you throw balls to knock coconuts off. Oh, there's a guess the way to the cake. I'd like that one. Nearly new clothes, a bit like a charity shop. Hats for 20p. Lots of different things on a stall here. Children throwing things in a basket there, just down here. And what have we got over here? Oh, that looks like a hoopla game. Or you chuck a hoop over a stick and you win a prize. Oh, their cake stall. Always a popular one. and here a grand raffle prize when you can win a teddy. That looks like good fun, doesn't it? There was a fancy dress parade. Look at all these children all dressed up. There were sports races with an egg and spoon race, a wheelbarrow race and a father's race. Bella was very good at races. She won the three-legged race with her friend Barbara. Wouldn't you like to go in for a race? They asked Dave. But Dave didn't feel like racing. He was missing Dogger too much. Then a very exciting thing happened to Bella. She won first prize in a raffle. It was a huge yellow teddy bear wearing a beautiful blue silk bow. He was almost as big as Dave. Dave didn't like that teddy at all. At the moment, he didn't like Bella very much either, because she kept on winning things. He went off on his own to look at the stalls. One lady had a toy stall full of knitted ducks and cars and baby dolls in bonnets, and there, at the very back of the stall, behind a lot of other toys, was... What do you think it is? Shall we see? Dogger! Look, he was wearing a ticket saying 5p. There was a lot of people around the stall. Dave tried to explain to the lady that it was his Dogger who had got lost and somehow been put on the stall by mistake, but she wasn't listening. He looked in his pocket. He had 3p, but that wasn't enough. He ran to find Mum and Dad to ask them to buy Dogger back at once. Dave went everywhere in the crowd, but he couldn't see Mum and Dad. He thought he was going to cry. At last he found Bella by the cakes. When she heard about Dogger, she and Dave ran back to the toy stall as fast as they could. But something terrible had happened. Dogger had been bought by a little girl. She was already walking off with him. Dave began to cry. Bella ran after her and tried to explain that Dogger really belonged to Dave and could they please buy him back. But the little girl said no. She said that she had bought Dogger with her own money and she wanted him. She held on to him very tightly. Dave cried and cried, and the little girl started to cry too. But out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of Bella's big yellow teddy. She stopped crying and put out her hand to stroke his beautiful blue silk bow. There she is. Look at Dave, just sobbing. He just wants Dogger back. And then Bella did something very kind. There she is, look. Can you see? Would you swap this teddy for my brother's dog then? She asked. Right away, the little girl stopped crying and began to smile. She held out Dogger to Dave, took the big teddy instead and went off with him in her arms. Then Dave smiled too. He hugged Dogger and he hugged Bella round the waist. Oh, thank you, Bella, he said. That night, Dave had Dogger in bed beside him. Bella was practising somersaults. Shall you miss that big teddy? Dave asked her. No, said Bella. I didn't like him much, really. He was too big and his eyes were too staring. And anyway, if I had another teddy in my bed, there wouldn't be room for me. There are Bella and Dave going off to sleep. Bella with all her teddies. She's right, there wasn't a room for another one, was there? And there's Dave with just Dogger. And that's the end. Lovely story, Dogger. I wonder if you've got something really special that you always take to bed with you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you tomorrow for another story. Good night, bears.